I recently completed my first ever sprint triathlon after coming across the sport more or less out of the blue in May of this year. Tackling 3 sports in one is not an easy task, and there was a ton to learn. So let's talk through my experience doing my first triathlon, all the lessons learned, and also how much I spent to get started in this sport. Hello you guys, and welcome back to a new video on my channel. I have not filmed a video in so long, which is so sad, but I'm in a new space. I officially moved to a new apartment and I have been loving it so far. But that is not what today's video is about. Today I'm finally going to go into detail on recapping my experience running my very first triathlon. If you haven't seen the vlog for it, it will have just gone up like this past week or possibly 2 weeks ago, depending on when I upload this. So if you want to see the last week leading up to the triathlon and my experience the day of the triathlon itself, then make sure to go check that out. Also, hi, if you're new here, my name's Zoe, I'm 24, I live in the New York City area, and I'm just trying to figure out life in my 20s, balancing a corporate 9-to-5 with having hobbies and fun things going on in my life. So if that sounds interesting to you, then make sure to subscribe for more. I'm going to be walking you guys through basically every single aspect of training for my very first triathlon, all the tips and tricks that I have accumulated as a beginner triathlete so that I can share all of that with you guys. So first things first, we're going to start with my training itself. So I use the app Motive for my training plan. It's a pretty flexible app. You can pay for it if you want to. I just use the free version. If you pay for it, I'm pretty sure you get like more integrations into things like Strava or Training Peaks. I basically just used whatever the app had, and then I would, put that into my watch itself, or I'd just like write it on a piece of paper, and I would follow the workout along that way rather than having it be like automatically given to me. What I really liked about this app is it had a lot of flexibility in like the initial setup. So I was able to say, okay, these are the days that I'm probably going to want to be running, or these are the days that I'm going to want to be swimming, and then I could program that in, and then it would build the training plan off of that, which I really liked. Even though I put in all of that information in the beginning, it did still take into account like the weeks leading up to it, some changes that might have to happen. For example, like a taper week, it made sure that that was in there, or the week of the actual race, making sure that there were shakeout runs or shakeout swims, all of that kind of stuff that goes into it as well. I will also preface that I feel like I was not a complete beginner in the swim or in the run. However, I definitely was on the bike, but we'll talk about that more later. I grew up swimming. I'm very comfortable in water. I did do one open water swim clinic just because I wanted to make sure that everything would like feel okay, and it did. It was fine. I honestly, once I got over the idea of there being like critters in the water, like I was perfectly fine. I will say it did take a little bit of getting used to, just like the fact that you're not pushing off the wall and getting a little break every time that you do that in a pool, you don't get that option whenever you do open water swimming. But aside from that, I thought that it was fine. I felt like that transition was also fine. As for running, I do feel like I was definitely pushed in the running element during the training. I could probably run a 5K before I started the training, and I had done a couple like here and there, but this definitely like meant that I had to push myself to run a little bit further. And it also taught me a lot about just like managing the runs, because usually whenever I would do a run, I would be like dead and out of breath, and like my heart rate would skyrocket by the end of it. However, during this training plan, I was definitely able to kind of bring that down a little bit. I was able to kind of feel a little bit healthier whenever I was doing a run, to the point where doing a 5K didn't feel like this crazy thing that I would do. It just kind of felt like a normal run day. Like I said though, the bike was definitely the hardest thing for me. I just was not super comfortable on the bike, and I wasn't very good at pushing myself on the bike either. I probably didn't dedicate enough time to it. And if I was to go back and do it again, I definitely want to spend more time on the bike. That being said, it was really hard to find good spots to do the biking, and that was one of the main reasons why I didn't do a lot in the first place. So that is kind of everything when it came to an overview of the training. If you guys want to see any more specific parts, I did have a couple of vlogs where I was training for the triathlon, so I will make sure to link those for you guys if you want to go check it out. Now we're gonna go talking about the actual triathlon itself. So the couple of days leading up to the triathlon, like I said, I do have a video on that. However, I was gonna talk through just like how I was feeling and everything. The check-in was the day before the race, and I did go to the check-in. So the race itself was taking place at a location about an hour and a half away from me in Pennsylvania, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Like when I got there, I was like blown away. I was not expecting it to be quite as beautiful as it was, and we were getting there like right as the sun went down, so I got to see a really, really nice view. I had some pizza the night before. We just went out and got like a Blaze type pizza, I think it was, so like a make your own place. It was great, and I did go to bed pretty early. I don't think that I struggled too much to fall asleep the night before. Maybe a little bit. I definitely was more excited, I think, the night before than I was nervous. But the next morning I woke up so easily. Like I honestly think I may have woken up a little bit before my alarm, which my alarm was at like 4 a.m. so that is actually insane. But I was just so ready for the day. I was so excited. I was like, it's finally here. It's time to like really do it. And I was like, I am not gonna sleep through any kind of alarm. Like there's absolutely no shot. So I did eat some cereal in the morning. I think I literally just had like some cornflakes, something like super basic. And I think we left around like 5:15, 5:30 in the morning. I wanted to get there really early. So the race didn't actually start until I want to say like 7 or 7:30. And so I wanted to get there early though, because I'm pretty sure the course opened at like 6, and I was like, I want to be there like basically whenever it opens, because I want to have a good parking spot. I don't want to have to be worrying about parking. Like I just want to be in there so I can get my stuff ready to go and be ready as soon as possible. When we got there, I was like, shoot, we're crazy early. Like there is nobody else here, but I think I came in during a gap, because like when I parked, there was a lot of other people coming into the parking lot as well, so it was fine. I was not like the first person there by any means, but I think we got there at like the perfect time. However, once I like got out the car, we got my bike down to the transition area, we dropped that off, I got my stuff all ready to go, I got my body markings where they basically just put the numbers on me, and then it was like I still had like an hour or something before the race actually started, and that was like the worst hour. I did not know what to do with myself. It was like I can't like run around and get energy out. I like obviously like had already set up all of my stuff. I was like, there's nothing else to do, so I literally just stood there, and that was like the worst part of the entire day. I was like, I just want to kick this thing off. In terms of the setup, I think the only thing I would have done differently is I only brought one towel, and I wish I would have had multiple, because I wound up laying that one towel down to like put my stuff on, because in the morning the grass was like all wet and gross and it was just like getting everywhere. But then whenever I was on the transition, like I kind of needed another towel like just to dry off a bit. So I would say that that is like one of the things I forgot. My aim for the race overall was really two things. The first one was that I just wanted to finish it. Like I really didn't have like super high expectations. I just wanted to complete it and feel good about it, and that to me kind of meant I didn't want to like walk during the run or like take any major breaks. Like I was like, I'll give myself a few minutes during transition, but besides that I kind of want to just be like go 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 the whole day. But my second goal was that I really felt like I would be able to complete it in under 2 hours, and I really wanted to try my best to do that. That felt like very manageable and likely, but I still felt like I was gonna have to push a little bit to be able to make sure that I got in on that under 2 hour mark. Also, I was in the 20 to 24 age group. Okay, now we can dive into the actual day, the moment you've all been waiting for. You can probably imagine how I was feeling while I was waiting for this race to start and nothing was happening. We'll start with part one, which was the swim. So it was a 750 meter swim. And as I've mentioned before, the swim was the part I was most confident about, which I felt like is not the general vibe of a lot of people doing triathlons. A lot of people get really nervous for the swim, but I grew up swimming. Like I am a little fish in the water and I love swimming, so I was pretty comfortable with this part. They were sending people into the water 2 at a time, and I wish that I would have kind of squeezed my way in there a little bit earlier. I was feeling not very confident, I guess, in the moment, and I was a bit like, oh, like I'm not like a quick swimmer, like I'm just kind of like, I'm very comfortable in the water, but like I wouldn't say I'm like super fast or anything like that. So I kind of waited quite a while, and by the time I got in the water, the people that I was going in the water with were definitely a lot slower than I was, and so I spent most of the time trying to overtake people who were slower than I was. And at one point, there was this one point at the back, basically the course was like a square, and at the back line of it, I got stuck behind this group of like 5 men, and I could not get past them, so I wound up going like around the outside of them, and my watch said I did like an extra like 200 meters and did like 950 meters instead of 750, so that is a little bit annoying. The water itself though was super comfortable. It was like probably like 70 or 72 degrees. It was warmer than the outside air temperature was when I set off in the morning. My time for the swim in the end was 17 minutes 47 seconds, which is a pace of about 2:22 per 100 meter. I definitely feel like if I had gone in an earlier group, I could have gone a lot quicker, but I was fine with this time. It was still pretty good, and I had a good time. It was very enjoyable. Next up was transition 1. So this is the transition from the swim into the bike. Getting out of the water, I did have a slight headache, which wasn't ideal, and it did make me a little bit nervous as I was going into the bike. But I did kind of just like take my time in this transition. I wasn't in any hurry. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna run out from the water, find my bike, take some deep breaths, have some water, make sure I change my socks, like put some socks on, put my shoes on, get my bike off, and then just like take a moment. And I'm glad I did this because I feel like I would have been very like discombobulated otherwise. So by the time that I got out of the transition area and onto the bike, I was basically okay. My head was still hurting like a little bit, but after a few minutes it went away, so I was like, okay, I'm good, I got this. And my transition time was 3 minutes 14.5. Next up was the bike, and the bike was humbling, to say the least. So I started out, like I said, feeling just a little bit off because of my head, but it didn't take too long before I was like on the go and I was ready and riding. This was such a hilly course. I think it said in the end my watch had like 926 feet of elevation gain, which I don't really have much perspective on whether that is a lot or a little, because everything that I was doing was just flat. And this course, like, it was like every time I would finally get up a hill and down it again, another one was coming, and it was even bigger than the one before. So many people were getting off of their bike and just walking up the hill, which I didn't let myself do because, like I said, one of my goals for this was to not stop, and I kind of put that in the category of stopping. However, my flaw is that I was not willing to push the bike as much as I probably should have. So what would happen is I would very slowly make my way up these hills, and then as I was coming down, I would always brake. I would put my hands on the brakes, which is like fine if I'm not feeling safe. Like, yes, I should be doing that, but I wasn't like willing to really let the bike go and just go and get up to a lot of speed. So like all these people who are walking up these hills that I would go past then like sped down the hill and like would go right past me, and then it would happen over and over again. So I do feel like I could be better about that, and I think that's just a matter of time and building up my confidence. I was very happy when the bike was over. Like the last couple hills, I was like, are you serious? Like if I have to go up another hill, I am going to lose my mind. I was like, I got to mile 10 and the last 2 miles were like the longest miles of my life. I was like, how am I still riding this bike? Like somebody did not measure this course right. It has got to be more than 12 miles, but it was 12 and a half, so I guess that's why. But it felt like a very long time. My bike time was 57:34.8, which is an average pace of 12.9 miles an hour. Definitely would love to see that number go up. I think that I do have a lot of potential. It's just a matter of feeling more comfortable on the bike. The other thing about this bike course that was hard for me was it was on the road, and I have been riding exclusively on trails, so throwing some cars into the mix was a little bit terrifying for me. Okay, T2. I didn't really do much in T2. There wasn't a lot to do. I think I just had to like put my little like running bib on that had my number for the last part of the triathlon, which is a run. It was a 5K. I just took my sweet time during this transition. I think I stopped for a few minutes. I even did a little bit of stretching because my legs were just like so tired from going on the bike, and especially with all of those hills, I wasn't expecting to feel like that. So I had some water, did a quick stretch, and my T2 time was 2:11.6. And then finally it was time to wrap things up with the run. I couldn't believe it whenever I started running. I was like, oh my gosh, finally, like the last thing that I have to do. And then I was also like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to run a 5K now, especially after that bike just murdered my legs. But I had a lot of energy at the start of the run. I was passing a lot of people, which I wasn't expecting to do. Like after the swim, I was not expecting to pass a single soul. I thought it was gonna be everybody going past me because I knew that the swim would be my best thing, and then from there on out, everybody was gonna go past me. But I was actually going past a few different people on the run, which did give me a little boost of serotonin, I don't know. About halfway through the run was when things really started to get tough. It was far away from where a lot of the spectators were. It was like through this parking lot, it was hot, and I was just starting to feel a little bit gross. My legs were starting to really hurt. And then the next part was like over more like trails. And so I was having to like jump around a lot. And then the last little bit was just on this like dirt path. And by that point, my ankles were really, really hurting me. And I was a bit concerned about that because it wasn't like a pain that I'd had at all during the training. But I think it just came down to the fact that the road surface was quite a lot different than what I had been running on. And yeah, and it just been a long day and I was tired. And so it was all fine. I still pushed myself right at the end, and Will was very kindly cheering me on, which was very nice. I was doing the math like to try to figure out whether I was gonna do it in under 2 hours, and I was pretty sure that I was, but I like really wanted to push myself on this 5K to make sure that I was getting it in under 2 hours, because I was like, based off of my average 5K time, like I would have to run it quite slowly to not get it under 2 hours, but that also kind of motivated me because I was like, well, how quickly can I do it, you know? And I actually did manage to get my best ever 5K time. I PR'd my 5K and I did it in 29.27.1, which the fact that I did the 5K in under 30 minutes is honestly crazy to me. Like that's not something I usually do, so I was very excited by that. When it was finally over, I was like, yeah, I could do this again, which was funny because as I was doing it, I was like I could do this, but I could not do a longer distance. But now I'm like, it would kind of be fun to do it a longer distance, but we'll see what happens. I also really just can't even describe the feeling of crossing over the finish line. It was such an incredible feeling. It was like I worked so hard for this and I can finally like see the end result and like say that I've done this thing, and it was just the best feeling. Like that feeling is the reason why I would love to do another one. My overall time in the end was 1 hour, 50 minutes, 15 seconds, 0.6. I was able to do it in under 2 hours, which felt absolutely incredible. I was so proud of myself. I am so proud of myself. And I just don't think I could have like picked a more picturesque spot to have done my first triathlon. Like it was so much fun. The atmosphere was really fun. It was really well run as well. Like I felt like there was a lot of support everywhere. There was a lot of direction, and it was just really well done. And I just like, I hope to do another one soon. I'm like so sad that this triathlon that I did was so far at the end of the triathlon season with doing it like mid-September, because I would love to do another one and I would love to do it soon, but now it's cold, so probably won't be for a while. For the last part of this video, I just wanted to talk through how much I actually spent getting into this triathlon world and doing the triathlon, and all of the equipment that I kind of felt like was necessary versus not necessary, just in case you guys wanted a little bit more perspective on the cost and what it takes to get into triathlon. Because if there's anything that anybody could have told me at the beginning of this, it was that triathlon is not cheap at all. And I was under the impression, I was like, okay, but maybe I just have to buy a bike and then I'm good. Well, yes, but also no, because other things kind of start to add up here and there. So we'll go through all of that so I can let you guys know how much I spent on everything. So to start off with, we'll start with the bike. That was definitely the biggest purchase. I got a brand new Trek Domine AL2. So definitely not cheap. It is a road bike, so it is a little bit on the pricier side. I bought my bike, helmet, and then some lights for the bike and like some like maintenance stuff for the bike all together, and in total I spent about $1,400 on all of that. So it was not a small investment. That was a lot of money to be paying to buy this bike. I definitely felt like it was worth it for me, because even if I decided that I hated triathlon, I didn't want to do it anymore, which is not the case, I would still have a bike, and I'm like, I feel like a bike is just a good investment. It's like having a car, you know, you're like gonna use it a lot and for years. So I am very happy with this investment, but it was definitely a lot of money. You don't have to spend that much. There were some bikes that I was looking at that were probably about half of that weren't road bikes, but you could probably still do a sprint triathlon on them. It kind of just depends how into it you're gonna get. And I also know that like there are a lot of bikes that are a lot more expensive as well. For me, this was a good starting one, and we'll just see what happens now. Next, another big purchase was my running shoes that I got. So I probably spent a little bit too much on these. I think I got running shoes, I got some custom insoles for them as well, and I got a lot of pairs of nice running socks, and that all cost me about $300, which is a little bit more than I was hoping to spend on it. It's just that the running soles were really, like the custom inserts were a lot more expensive than I was expecting, but it was like too late to like be like, no, I don't want these once I had done it. So I was like, guess I'm getting these now, which is not necessarily the best mindset. I don't recommend that. If you don't want something, you should speak up. But I was like, I'm sure that they will not hurt me and that they will probably help me. So I decided to just go ahead and buy them. Another quite expensive thing that I bought was a tri-suit. So that was about $150. I also don't think that you necessarily need this. I think that you can do a triathlon wearing like a swimsuit and shorts. But I really wanted it. I think that it just kind of helps me. It helped me with like the transitions and stuff. Like I just felt like the bike was more comfortable because it had padding. So for me, it was worth the purchase. Some other purchases, I had a YMCA membership for 3-ish months in order to pay for a swimming pool to swim in. I also did that one open swim session, which was $65 because I did like a clinic. The triathlon itself, the admission wound up being about $170. And then on top of that, because I did the triathlon away from me, I also got a hotel, so that was another $100. I did buy some bike shorts and like a jersey, which came out to be about $85. I got them relatively inexpensively, just straight off of Amazon, rather than buying like a big fancy bike kit, but it still adds up. I got like a phone holder and bike pump off of Amazon, which was about $20. And then I got a race belt, which was $10. The rest of the supplies that I used, I already owned. So things like running outfits, like a swimsuit, like for exercising in, goggles, towels. I also used swim equipment that the YMCA provided, so I got to save a little bit of money there. When I add everything up, it came out to be about $2,300, which is definitely not cheap. But like I said, if you already own a bike, you're probably in a much better position than I was and can spend a significant chunk of money compared to what I did. Okay guys, that is basically everything that I took away from doing my very first triathlon. If you have any questions that I can help with, please let me know in the comments below and I would be happy to chat with you guys. Doing this triathlon was one of my absolute favorite things that I've ever done. I cannot wait to do another one, hopefully soon. It's such a fun sport, it's so good, like it was so rewarding to do, and I just can't wait. I might finally get to call myself a triathlete. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!